After years of Pokemon fans complaining about the quality of recent Pokemon games, the hatred towards GameFreak grew stronger and stronger. They were being compared to Activision. Do you have any idea how bad you need to be compared to Activision? This resentment grew and grew, with each game disappointing a large portion of the fan base, and it eventually just ended up dividing the Pokemon community as a whole, and we haven't known peace since. But I think that GameFreak knew that. So after years of yearly releases and subpar games, they finally decided to take their time. Enough messing around, enough cutting corners, enough rushing games. They decided to take 3, almost 4 years to release another Pokemon game, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like the Pokemon community can finally agree on one thing. These games look so cool! I truly do believe that GameFreak has finally decided to lock in. Usually when I make a video talking about GameFreak, it's not exactly the most positive video, but this time, I actually have a lot of positive things to say. If GameFreak is lacking, I will call that out. But if they're actually improving and doing great stuff, I will commend that because that means that they do care. Some people will say that we shouldn't get our hopes up, but really, this is the positivity we need in this forsaken community. We can't always just be pessimistic about everything. Let's celebrate the good. But the general consensus of Legends Z-A is extremely positive. I don't care what anyone says, this was worth the wait. They were given more time, and boy does it show. A hot topic that always fuels arguments in the Pokemon community are graphics. And while I don't think that Pokemon needs to be ahead of the game when it comes to graphics, it's always nice to see them improve. And they most definitely have. I really like how this game looks. The colors are really vibrant and they just pop. While Legends Arceus was a great game, I loved it a ton, I didn't like how washed out it looked. It makes sense since it does take place in the past, but still, I'm happy with this change. This game also has a stable frame rate, which you would think would be expected, but nope. It runs so smoothly. If there was any frame drops in the trailer, I didn't notice it, so I don't care. The thing I was immediately really happy about was the fact that the characters don't look ugly and realistic anymore. I loved Scarlet and Violet, but I absolutely hated the character models. Seeing the individual hair strands and like the depth of their faces was just really weird. It just didn't look like the Pokemon art style that we all know and love. It looked uncanny. Sword and Shield did the character models perfectly, and I was a bit worried that moving forward, the trainer models in Scarlet and Violet would be the new standard, but thankfully, Legends Z-A brings us right back to where we left off. We are so back, and it feels like an evolution of what we saw the character models in Sword and Shield look like. I really do love them a ton. The character proportions are correct, the eyes look nice, the face looks normal, and the hair, it's back to being normal. I genuinely have no complaints. They're perfect. Now, because the trainer models have gone back to the anime art style, that means the Pokemon models changed back too. For a bit, the Pokemon had texture to them. They were fuzzy or scaly or whatever they were. And while it did look cool, it just didn't feel like Pokemon. I feel like the more realistic they try to make the models look, the worse it'll look. Like it doesn't fit in, you know? So once again, I'm happy they're sticking with the stylistic art style. They also for some reason gave all the Pokemon new renders. They're in the same poses as the ones featured in Pokemon Home, but they look a lot more vibrant and just overall way more polished. And I love it a ton. They did an amazing job. GameFreak didn't have to do any of that, but they did it anyway. I'm assuming these will also change if the Pokemon is shiny, which would be such a cool little detail. Little changes like this just show that GameFreak finally cares. They were just never given enough time. And truthfully, I don't think that it's their fault. I think it's the Pokemon company trying to rush them out and put them on their schedule, you know? They're probably telling them, okay, we need these games by this date. This is when the anime's showing up. This is where the TCG's coming into play. We have this huge collab with Nike for some reason. We need it now. So this is just an overall really positive change. GameFreak workers don't have to be on a tight schedule anymore. They don't have to rush and cut corners and choose what to sacrifice. They can go home and see their families and still have a good game. And they did say they need a little bit more time to polish the game more, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Take all the time you need. Take another year. I really don't care. As long as the game comes out great, I'm all for it. Take all the time you need. It just makes me so happy. As a Pokemon fan, I love Pokemon, and this game truly does reignite that flame. We are so back. I feel like Pokemon X and Y was a huge point in the Pokemon community. It felt like everyone was in unity. All the Gen 1ers returned because they wanted to see their old Pokemon get mega evolutions. The newer fans got to play a new game, and everything was just great. Nobody was really at each other's throats. We're getting pretty good games, good remakes, good anime. The Pokemon YouTube community was growing, and you can help it grow more by subscribing right now. There was so much merchandise. It truly felt like everything was just you know, as it should be. I feel like we can recapture that feeling with these new games, if of course everything goes according to plan. The city looks super pretty. I've always had a fascination for huge cities, mostly because I don't get to see them often. So I do really like this setting a ton, and it seems pretty accurate. They even have anti-homeless benches, because apparently it's better to cause inconveniences for those who are already suffering instead of solving the problem. It also just looks huge. People were worried that they would feel trapped in a small area, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. It looks big enough to get lost in. While we didn't see them open up any of the menus, the UI on screen looks really clean. It's an improvement on the one we saw in Legends Arceus. The HP bar and icons are bigger. You can also see way more than just 3 Pokemon slots at a time, and you have this cool little text box area off to the right that tells you what's going on. And something I am incredibly grateful for is us having a proper mini-map. Yeah, we had one in Scarlet and Violet, but that one for some reason rotated with you as you were looking around. It was annoying because sometimes I'd have no idea which way was north. It also wasn't that useful, if I'm being honest. It took the big map and just shrunk it down, but looking at it from afar, it's just a bunch of colors. So I'm happy that the Legends Z-A map actually functions more like a map. It also appears to have a little day and night cycle indicator. There's this little bar around it that goes down over time, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I also just really like how bold the letters are. If you're playing on a small TV, or if you're far away and have bad eyesight like me, it's super hard to read, so I appreciate this a ton. I think the character designs are pretty cool. None of them really stand out to me all too much, like in a "I'm an important character, look at me" kind of way. Everyone looks like they're dressed how a normal person in this world would be dressed, just casual outfits. The 2 protagonists might look like they have pretty similar designs, but it's mostly only the jacket that's keeping them connected. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan of the jacket. They should have made it not neon green, and they for sure shouldn't have given it to both of them, but I'm fairly certain that character customization will be a thing, so at least we can get rid of it. I hope. Please don't be like Scarlet and Violet. I do wish though that they had shades like Callum and Serena. I feel like it made their designs stand out that much more. Also, some people are hating on the female character's baggy pants, but I kind of rock with it. I feel like a lot more people would too if they just changed the damn jacket. I feel like it just throws the whole outfit off. I hate it. Also, this is purely speculation, but the protagonists look a lot like Ethan and Lyra. I mean, just take a look at their hairstyles. The male has a strand of hair in the front sticking out, and the female has 2 tails in the back and in the front. So maybe they're from Johto, and I'm not saying that they are Ethan and Lyra, but they could just be from Johto, and this is how they're showing it. They did come to Lumiose City to go sightseeing, we know that much. And I know this is also a huge stretch, but take a look at their shoes. The male shoes have Ethan's colors, and the female's has Lyra's colors. Even the hats they have are pretty similar. The male has a black hat, and the female has a white and red one. These are way too many similarities for there to not be a connection. I also do like Urbane and Tawny's design a lot. Their hair looks really pretty, and they actually have pretty cool outfits. Okay, well, I don't know how I feel about the sweatpants, but pretty cool outfits overall. I also think it's cool that they're bringing back your rival being the opposite gender protagonist. It makes the protagonist feel a little less lifeless, since they can actually play a part in the story and not just be an empty vessel for you to choose. AZ is here, which honestly I didn't expect. I thought he would have spent the rest of his life roaming the world, but nope, he opened up a hotel. Hotel Z. Nice. I like that AZ has to rip his clothes and sew them up just to make them longer because he's really tall. And then there's Jet and Vinny. There's not much to say about them really. They have like okay designs. And Vinny kind of reminds me of Team Flare solely because of the shades. They're probably bad guys. So overall, this game definitely looks the part, but does it play the part? Well, in the trailer, we see a new battle system. And God, it looks so cool. Trainers and their Pokemon now have to move around during the battle and dodge attacks. The trainers have to tell their Pokemon when to use their moves. You have to switch out at the right time. Moves take different amounts of time to use, and they have cooldowns. They have different areas of effect, so you can hit multiple targets at once, and some moves have longer and shorter ranges. I have been wanting this for so long. I love turn-based gameplay, but because Pokemon is really easy, that mostly just boils down to pressing A over and over again. It gets boring, so people have to impose rules on themselves a lot of the time just to make it a little bit more challenging. And also, a lot of people don't want to play Pokemon because of the turn-based combat, but with the real-time battles, it's a lot more engaging. And while it still may be easy, at least it's more than just pressing the A button mindlessly. This new battle system is closer to how battles work in the anime, and I feel like that's how battles should feel. Not just pressing A until it's over. You gotta actually engage with your Pokemon. I don't know if they came to this idea on their own, or they saw Pal World and said, hey, we can do it better. Either way, I'm happy. If Pal World did push them to do this, hell yeah. The sneaking mechanic is back yet again, and I liked it a ton. It gives you a different way to approach catching Pokemon instead of brute forcing everything. And you also get a bonus. If the Pokemon isn't looking at you, you have a higher chance to catch it. But if you do want to brute force everything, you can actually now catch fainted Pokemon, which I have no idea why this wasn't a thing to begin with. It doesn't make any sense that their body's just gone after. But I'm glad that you finally have this option. This can also save you from accidentally killing a shiny Pokemon. No more failing shinies, unless you're just really unlucky. All of this combined just really reminds me of how the anime works. I feel like that's how Pokemon should feel. Like I said before, the frame rate is stable, and it's beautiful. The frame rate was a major complaint about Scarlet and Violet, and I feel like if those games did have a stable frame rate, a lot more people would like it, because that's almost the only complaint I ever hear about it. The story was good, I like the new open world approach, and the music was great too. It's just that damn frame rate ruining its reputation. I don't know what they did to fix the frame rate, but they should keep it that way. Okay, which asshole parks like this? I'm so happy you can even battle on the roof. I thought this game would be really limited with the places you could go, since in every Pokemon game you can't really climb up buildings freely unless there's a staircase. But in the trailer, you can climb on stuff and jump off roofs. I'm so happy we won't be heavily restricted. It'll make the city feel less enclosed, and this might be the most mobile we've ever been in a Pokemon game. I mean, we straight up see the protag leap from building to building like a superhero or something, and they used a phone to do it. They're also climbing up ledges. Like, this is awesome. You can parkour in Pokemon. We got to take a look at the starter choices this time around, and I was way off. The only one I was right about was Totodile, but even then, that was a complete shot in the dark. In Legends Arceus, they chose the 3 that they did because they all relate back to Japan's history. But what the hell could Chikorita, Totodile, and Tepig have in common? In Legends Arceus, the starters all got regional variants, but I don't think we're going to be getting that. I think they're just going to receive Mega Evolutions, which I'm perfectly fine with. They chose 2 starters from the same generation, which nobody was expecting, so there's got to be a good reason for it. I think Torchic would have made more sense since the rooster is the national bird of France, but because it already has a Mega Evolution, I'm assuming that's why it wasn't chosen. So again, I think it's more likely that we will be getting Mega Evolutions and not just regional variants. I'm trying to think of a connection that could link these 3 together, but I just can't think of any. The only thing I can think of is Emboar being here because it's the Mega Fire Pig. Haha, very funny, guys. I'm sure it'll make sense in the future, but as of right now, I have no idea. I'm probably choosing Totodile though. I made the mistake of opening the comments section of the trailer, and boy do I regret it. I can't believe some people are actually complaining about how this game looks. Holy shit. They already did so much to fix all the issues we had with previous titles. I saw this comment saying, same 5 textures for buildings. Well, yeah, it's all in the same city. No shit, it looks the same. The only texture that really stood out to me for being ugly was the brick texture, but the entire game has so much that I love about it already that I don't really care about it. Everyone freaked out about how the trees in Sword and Shield look because it seemed like they were taking shortcuts everywhere. Like, if they half-ass one thing, it's not that big of a deal, but if the whole product is half-assed, it just makes us mad. With them taking almost 3 years to make this game, I'm really happy that everything is so polished. Again, I can take a few bad textures if this game is actually good. Sword and Shield had so many problems that the bad textures was just twisting the knife, but if Legends Z-A has bad textures, we haven't even been stabbed yet, so twisting the knife wouldn't really do anything. I'm hoping that this game has voice acting. I made a whole video talking about why I think Pokemon should have voice acting already, so I won't get too much into it here, but if this game has voice acting, this will be my perfect Pokemon game. Like, this is straight up everything I could have asked for. The anime has been around for so long, so it wouldn't be weird to hear trainers talking. Masters EX has voice acting. They don't gotta have voice acting for every line of dialogue. That would just take forever. They can just have it for important scenes. That's how most games do it. So please, I am begging you, don't give us more awkward silent scenes. It just ruins the whole moment. If you don't want voice acting, just mute the damn game. I'm also really hoping this game has seasons. Since we are stuck in Lumiose City for the entire game, they can't really do much with the environment. Yeah, we see like these artificial areas like the sand area, but I want to see the city in different seasons so it doesn't get old. Like, imagine winter seeing everything snowed in and different types of Pokemon being out, or fall with all the autumn leaves, and spring with flowers. It would just be so cool. Kalos has always been big on fashion. It's the first game we ever got to customize our character in, so having way more clothing options is a must-have. I feel like X and Y and Sword and Shield did player customization the best. I have no idea what they were trying to do in Scarlet and Violet. You're wearing the stupid school uniform for the entire game, despite only being in school for like an hour max. But I can't wait to see all the clothing options. Same goes for all the different hairstyles. I feel like we almost never have enough of them, and the few that we have usually suck most of the time, at least for the males. Most of the female options are really pretty. This is a fucking Pokeball fade. There's no way. It's been 12 years since we were first shown AZ's Floette, and we still have no way to obtain it. It would be so awesome for us to finally obtain this sought after Pokemon. Since it is AZ's Floette, what? They could either do an event for it or AZ is gonna die. I think AZ is gonna die. No, but I mean, he has lived a long time. Maybe he lived long enough. And X and Y's themes were life and death. So maybe with AZ dying, he can give us his Floette and it can represent new life blooming in this city. I really hope Pokemon Ami comes back. Look, I didn't use the Pokemon Camp feature enough, nor did I use picnics that much. But what I did use a lot of was Pokemon Ami and a little bit of Pokemon Refresh. I just really liked petting my Pokemon and feeding them Pokepuffs. Is that such a crime? So if they let us pet it with our Joy-Cons or touchscreen, I will be happy. But if it's not in the game, I won't be too upset. I hope we get proper following Pokemon. In the trailer, we saw Pokemon following the trainer, so I think it's a safe bet that we will get it in some form, but I hope it's not like how Sword and Shield did it, where the Pokemon was either too slow and had to keep teleporting, or too fast where it would catch up to you, stop moving, then run back again. And I also hope it isn't like Scarlet and Violet, because that wasn't really following. It was more of an auto battle feature. I just want to have my Pokemon walk around with me. That's it. I hope we get to see older characters from X and Y, like Callum or Serena. I don't think this is too far in the future, so I don't think we're going to be seeing anyone's kids or anything like that. But if there's any characters I'm pretty sure we're going to see, it has to be Clement and Bonnie, since, you know, they kind of live in Lumiose City. Maybe we can see Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor become a fashion designer, dancer, and photographer respectively. We already saw AZ, so this is in the realm of possibility. I hope we get something related to the Lumiose City ghost girl. This is such an infamous story, and I already made a video talking about it. Even if it's not much, something is better than nothing. I just love spooky things. I know some people will get mad if we get Charizard Z and Mewtwo Z, but come on, they gotta do it. I mostly just want to see what they would even look like. Of course though, I really hope that new Pokemon get new Mega Evolutions. Not just Pokemon from Generation 1 or 3. I want a wide variety of generations, new and old. While watching the trailer, I noticed this Onix looks kind of small, and maybe Onix is just small, but I would really like for Pokemon sizes to return from Legends Arceus. It was always a really nice feature, and it's super easy to implement. All you gotta do is just scale the Pokemon. I hope we can take part directly in the building process, like choosing what gets funded first. Maybe we could also add like decorations, like maybe more plants in the city, or more lights, I don't know, just something to add atmosphere to the city. But of course, also functional things, like building a clothing store or a bigger Pokemart, stuff like that. Of course, you wouldn't be able to choose where they go, but maybe you can decide when they're built. Say you'd rather have character customization first. You tackle that, and then maybe after you can expand the Pokemart stock. Do I think this is likely? Probably not. It's just fun to think about. There isn't a whole lot I don't like about this game. Like, I really need to nitpick to find anything. And even then, I can't find anything at all. I guess if I had to choose one thing, I feel like the city should have way more people. Like, this place is huge, massive even. But in the trailers, there's like a handful of people walking around. It would be cool to see them living their daily lives just to add immersion. But at the same time, that could come at the cost of performance and also them just being in the way. So if that is the reason they're not there, I'm fine with living in a ghost town. What they could do is have like empty characters like they do in Persona. When walking around the city, you see these characters with blank faces, and they're more or less just part of the background. You can't even interact with them. They're just there to fill up space. To be fair though, the city is being remodeled, so it would make sense if not a lot of people are around. Another small thing I don't like is that Pokemon still do this weird rotating thing. Again, not a big deal since I love everything else about the game. I'm just really trying my best to nitpick here. If I had to take a wild guess as to when this game will release, I can almost guarantee it's November. Pokemon games always seem to release in November, and they did say late 2025, so it just makes the most sense. I feel like the story is gonna take this really cookie cutter approach, and I really hope I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's gonna play like, oh, we're trying to develop this city, and oh no, we're using a lot of the resources from the world and destroying it, but it's for the greater good of humanity. And then the Zygarde shows up and they're like, hey, this needs to stop, and they need to take down Jet and Vinny. And then after they fight, they're like, oh, I guess you were right, we were wrong, blah blah blah. And then they're like, okay, we're on the right path, and all's well that ends well. Please don't tell me I predicted the whole story before I even know anything about it. I feel like Jet and Vinny being evil is so obvious. She's a CEO, and I already don't like CEOs. They just look sketchy. Look at them. I highly doubt AZ will be the twist villain, because that would just kind of ruin his whole story. He already had a character arc. He doesn't need another. What the hell was that at the end? At the end of the trailer, we see a Rotom phone in the middle of the night with the message reading, "This is a promotion match announcement." Maybe since we don't have gym battles anymore, the way we progress through the game will be that strong trainers come to us in Lumiose City, and we have to face them on the tower on a certain date. I think this is a pretty cool substitute, but I hope that these trainers aren't just focused on one type and actually have team variety. Oh my god, you know what would be so cool? If some of the trainers we fought was like Shauna, Tierno, Trevor, Callum, Serena, older characters. That could be a good way to bring them back, because I doubt they'd just be living in Lumiose City. Please be true. Please be true.